Hi, so I want to tell you about some of the problems I've had with this old Corsa C and the heater. Now, because we're going to be working on a car, get rid of any loose clothing because you want to be safe, so there's nothing loose. Now, I'm going to talk you through the cooling system just very briefly and how it works. So the coolant goes in here. So first of all, if your heater isn't working, make sure that your coolant is up to there. Now, when this is hot, it's under pressure. Now, this is cold, the engine hasn't been started. I'm going to have a look here, and that looks relatively clean. I have drained this, but there is still a bit of gunk that's come out of the radiator. That's okay. So I'm going to close that back now, making sure that I don't cross the thread. So the coolant comes through here and goes through the radiator. This here is a thermostat, and then it goes into the heater matrix through this pipe here and comes out of the heater matrix through here. Now I want to show you where the heater matrix is. And the heater matrix is just like another little radiator, and it sits under here. If you need to remove the matrix, it can be done by a sort of reasonably competent DIY mechanic, but it's a bit of a faff. Now, some people on videos I've seen have taken the dash out over here. It will come out this side, but you need to depress the clutch. I've never done it. This is from other people's videos that I've seen. Now, if you turn your fan on and this isn't working, it's possibly a fuse. So it may just be that you need to turn the fuse. But let's assume that that is working. So let's come through here and we'll talk through a couple of things. Number one, I've said, is make sure that you've got your coolant in there topped up to the right level. If it's really dirty, that's a clue. Now, what it could be is that you've got trapped air. So before you start the car, just release that a little bit so you've got just air going into the system. Start it up and wait for the thermostat or the temperature gauge on your car to hit 88. Really easy number to remember if you've ever seen Back to the Future, because that's the magic number in Back to the Future. And if you listen to Radio 2, 88 to 92 is where they broadcast. 88, really good number to remember. So get it up to 88. Take you about 5 or 10 minutes just sitting there. Let it warm up a little bit, the engine. And you could have trapped air. So making sure, remembering that this belt is going to be turning, this is a danger point, so stay well clear of that. And you can just, if you put your hand just loosely on that hose, that one may very well be hot, and this one here might be cold. Now that could point to the thermostat or cold air. So perhaps with rubber gloves on, try forcing a bit of air through these pipes and touch your pipes here, remembering to keep out there, and just try and push it around a little bit. And that may, if you're really lucky, solve your problem. Now, if it doesn't, that's fine. What you're going to need to do, I think, is drain the coolant. Now let's assume that it is not the matrix for now. So you've got a can of WD-40, spray there, and spray down here. Now this here is a radiator drain plug. So if you can bring the camera in, you can see down there is a little round kind of nut or bolt on it. It's plastic. Now you may need to get mole grips on it or something, or like pliers, and just turn it. Now that turns to open it this way. So you turn towards your coolant reservoir. So you get your finger on it, you might have to go in this way or that way, turn it down very gently and water will begin to come out. Of course, you need to have this loose for that to happen. So drain that coolant out of it, remembering to catch the coolant, and then change the thermostat. Now, it might be that you get a new thermostat housing with it, so you may need to make sure that you've got a new clip to fit here. This is the Jubilee clip. This is a really nice clip to use on. So you're going to take that off. When you fit the new thermostat, make sure the thermostat housing on both sides is really clean. Get any old gunk off it, perhaps give it a little bit of a sand, and perhaps put some instant gasket on it so that you get, this is instant gasket, a little tub of that, just put some around it, just around the outside or both things, and that will do it up. Now, you can then refill your radiator, but you may wish to put in some Radiator Flush in there. Now, Radiator Flush can be quite aggressive, so there's a danger that if you've got a really old kind of heater matrix, that it could put a hole in it if it's rusty inside. So you may want to try that first, you may not. Now remember that when you top this up again, you might just want to top it up with water and see if that solves the problem. But if you top it up with water, you mustn't leave it overnight, especially if it's going to freeze. And also, you must put in 1 litre at least 1 litre of antifreeze, concentrated antifreeze, because that will stop it overheating and also stop it freezing. And if the engine, the coolant in your engine freezes, then it can crack your engine block, which is really bad news. So remember, if you're using a radiator flush, remember that you're going to have to take the radiator flush out. You might want to run the car with it in there for about 20 minutes, maybe take it on a small journey. But the thing to say is, when you refill the radiator from this here, it will fill up to here. Now, when you start the car running, or before you start the car running, ideally just see if you can push any air out and add some more water and some more coolant. Now, when you start the engine, ideally you've got a safety person there on the key, so ideally it's a 2-man job, and wait for the coolant to go down. It will probably go down, but it's probably got a lot of air stuck in there, and then you will need to top it up with water. And that, hopefully, will solve your heating problems. It may not be as hot as a new heater, but hopefully it would stop you changing the matrix.